You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. And today I am joined by Wardah Inam. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Pretty good.
Pretty much. And Wardah, you are the CEO of Overjet, a powerful AI company that we're going to learn all about. So welcome to the program.
Thank you, Julie, for having me here.
So tell us, first of all, you are based in the US. Whereabouts in America are you?
I'm in Palo Alto.
In where?
In Palo Alto, in California.
Ah, fantastic. I've never even heard of it before.
It's Silicon Valley.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. And tell us just a little bit about your career in a snapshot and Overjet itself, so it puts us in the framework of what we're going to be talking about today.
So my background is more from the technology side. I did my PhD at MIT working on autonomous systems, did a postdoc there as well, doing biomedical sensing using machine learning, then went on to work on biomedical imaging, where I was working on MRI data, and then started Overjet in 2018. So it's been more than 6 years now that we've been on this journey, but looking at how do we improve oral health utilizing artificial intelligence. So we started off building technology to analyze dental x-rays, then we expanded into other modalities as well. But the idea here was, can we have capability similar to how dentists review data, but computers could do it, but do it much more quantitatively, such that we can come up with more objective decision-making in dentistry and an ability to explain the decisions to patients. So that's what Overjet started the journey on, and now we are 150 people serving some of the largest dental organizations in the U.S. and have offices in the Bay Area, in Boston, in New York, and a distributed team as well. And and excited to be here to share more about Overjet.
I love it. So the demand is certainly out there for AI coming into dental practices. And we've spoken on this podcast in the past about AI. And because I would imagine in comparison to America, we're relative newbies. There is a lot of practices that I'm sure are currently using AI, but it's certainly not a majority of the practices. And so to put those people in the picture a little more, just from I know about the AI component to reading dental x-rays, but I want you to tell me more because I think you offer quite a bit more than that. But to put people in the picture, it is something that kind of plugs into your system. It gives its diagnosis over any x-rays that you get it to read. And it's a wonderful additional diagnostic tool. Just like we take x-rays to be able to get a clearer picture of someone's mouth, you can get AI to look at those x-rays as well and have an additionally clearer picture of what's going on there. And it really does help the patient to get over that hump of, because one of the common themes here in Australia, I'm sure it's over in America as well, is that I go to different dentists and I get a different diagnosis at each one of them. And there's no kind of firm ground of where I can stand of this is exactly what the treatment I need is. With showing a patient the AI result, that takes away their need to just blindly trust the practitioner. And when it's an early relationship, maybe a brand new patient to the practice because they've come in with a toothache or something like that, then it allows them that ability to trust more deeply, more swiftly, and then they are also seeing with their own eyes what's going on in their own mouth. And so it really does. It's a wonderful tool to use. You wouldn't just rely solely on it, obviously. The dentist must use their own diagnostic skills to perform that final diagnosis. But it is an absolutely powerful tool in reaching out to that patient and having trust be the result.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. So tell us more about how Overjet does this and the other elements of Overjet that you offer as well, because you are at the moment servicing America, but you'll be coming out to Australian shores soon as well.
Yeah, so we basically the way we look at the industry is that the industry is there to serve the patient. So you have dental organizations, might have insurance companies, you have other dental labs, providers, etc. And how do we get everybody on the same page around what the care it needs to be provided, and how do we then educate the patient so that they can get the best care that they need? So with that, we look at we started off with x-rays, then we went into notes, then we started looking at photographs, and then we started looking at all practice data that was present. We next for us is 3D, so CBCTs that we're working on now. And the goal here is, being able to ingest all that data and be able to, as you mentioned, provide the dentist with an ability and have an assistance that can help them see more comprehensively and then communicate more comprehensively as well. We also, the same technology right now is used by major insurance companies to review claims, to determine what is being submitted to them, and automate, augment that workflow as well. And the idea here is such that we reduce the administrative overhead, we reduce the back and forth between the payer and the provider that costs a lot in the system. Overjet is also being used in some of the schools for educational purposes. And there was a study that I was actually reading today in the morning from University of Florida, where it utilized this Overjet for teaching students, and they had amazing results with that study in terms of caries detection and improvement of students' diagnosis. So that's another area that it is being utilized, so that again, utilizing the visualizations, utilizing the quantifications to help students understand and point out disease well. The other piece where we see a lot of adoption is in dental service organizations. These are groups which own multiple practices, and in order for them to ensure standard of care across their practices, and more importantly, as they get more students graduating and joining their practices, giving them the confidence that they would have if they were multiple years into practice, because now they have an ability to surface this data, which has been trained on hundreds of dentists' diagnosis that they can utilize to best supplement their diagnosis.
It's pretty extraordinary stuff. If we can go back for a start, let's go very back. So starting with x-rays, that's the area that I'm most aware of. And I've certainly seen AI also, you'll be able to upload extra old photos that you take of someone's mouth, and that can also be AI read as well. That's magnificent. Tell me more about the notes.
Yeah, so the notes are basically, a dentist has their own language in which they write notes, as you might be familiar. It looks like English, but doesn't sound like English at all. But however, having models train on that data, so it's more than, them training on English language. It is understanding that CRWN means a crown, CRN might mean a crown, CROAN might mean a crown. So being able to understand that language and be able to then understand, hey, to determine the quality of the notes. Is there something missing? Is there something that needs to be written there? Especially as I mentioned around the standardization of care, that's where it's being used, so that not only is the care that is being provided really well, but the documentation is there, which helps in better reimbursements. It also helps in on compliance and ensuring the right documentation is happening in the practices. We also utilize it for the review of notes, narratives that ensure that a provider sends to insurance companies to review that, to understand more than what is in the x-rays. So for example, a fracture on a tooth might not be visible on an x-ray, but a dentist might have pointed that out based on and what steps that they took. It's able to understand what happened there to ensure that the right care was getting delivered.
Yeah. And so are you saying that the note element is that the information that the AI, that Overjet gleans from the x-rays and the pictures, for example, that it is then noted down in notations within the treatment notes for that day for then the dentist to go in there and make modifications?
So one is writing the notes, the other is reading the notes. So being
Yeah.
able to also read the notes that a dentist might have. So the last time the patient came in, the dentist wrote, things about the patient. There might be things in those notes that need to be understood for the treatment or for an organization to ensure that they documented effectively. So being able to identify that and make it more actionable for the provider, so that they not only can ensure that the right care is being delivered, but the right care is being documented and the right care is getting paid for.
Yeah. So the picture I've got in my mind, and you can help me whether, to what degree Overjet helps this process and to what degree would be coming soon, because I'm sure it's not too far away. In a traditional setting, that the dentist would be speaking through their dental examination as the dental assistant or dental nurse is making all the notations within the patient file and on the charting. And then the dentist would eventually look through all those notes, make all their modifications, kind of do a bit of a sign off on them, then go into dental treatment charting and create the treatment plan, and then print that off and hand it to the patient. The issues with that, it's very time intensive. And we have some dentists that love doing their notes straight after the patient, and other dentists, even though it's not ideal in the slightest, they're not the note type person. And so their notes haven't been done for another couple of days down the track. And the patient ends up with a treatment plan, which is a list of item codes and verbiage that they don't truly understand. The only thing they do understand is the cost, the dollar mark. Yeah. Which is the one thing that we're trying to articulate to them. Yes, it costs this much, but this is the value that you'll be receiving as well. And so it's a system that can be flawed all the way through. I imagine with the introduction of AI, for a start, you've got the assistance with the diagnosis and also having the patient see it to believe it. But then that whatever is being said out of the dentist's mouth, and that is being formulated as part of the notations, and possibly even into the charting as well. I don't know how extensive it can get, how intense the AI can get. But then the AI could then eventually generate a treatment plan, which is not just a one image picture of this is how much it's going to cost. It's got everything. All they need to know about codes to get insurance claim quotations of what the refund will be, but also better explanations about what these treatments are and where those teeth are in the mouth, etc. And so it's more of a complete proposal rather than just a standard visual quote of the dollar amount that people are going to be charged.
So, Julie, I think what you've laid out is how it is getting built. So not all the pieces are there yet, but that is the future. Where I think from there, what is not there is the voice to text for us. We have, of course, have some pilots that we've run, etc., but being able to then productize that effort. We have also FDA clearance, at least in the US, around auto charting, so being able to chart these automatically. So there, those pieces are there, but I would say the end-to-end product doesn't exist right now, but it is definitely what the future is going to be, and hopefully increase the productivity of dentists and help make their life easier.
It's really music to my ears. I mean, I use AI in my most basic way, which is ChatGPT. I think a lot of people are using ChatGPT now. I'm ridiculously productive. I often say to people, it's made me about 5 times more productive. I think that's a minimum now. It's just extraordinary that, the way you can use it. And it's exciting to me as a dental practice management consultant, because from my space, when I go into any dental practice to help them improve their turnover, their patient relationships, their team, their whatever, one thing is always true. The minute you've got team members who are trained into delivering fantastic customer service, everything else improves. because you're improving the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference, the patient experience. That's what keeps patients coming back for more. So they're loyal patients and referring new patients to you. And if you've got that patient experience really fantastic, it reduces down all your costs with marketing and all the things of it, because you're getting more ground roots marketing going on instead. And team members are happier, the patients are happier, everyone's happier. And so that is a very big chunk of your ability to be successful as a dental practice. All of this AI stuff, it's very exciting to me because I'm able to do so much more because of my efficiency given AI, but the dental teams are going to be the same. And I encourage so much for dental practices to start taking on AI in these early stages. For here in Australia, it's early stages, because you want to be on the journey. Because can you imagine, once we get to that other end of the spectrum where it's doing so much for us, saving all our team members time in so many ways, rather than all the time of getting all the notes organised and the treatment plans organised, all that time is spent instead engaging with the patient, delivering that fantastic customer service, making sure that the patient is the priority of that whole journey throughout the practice. And you've got team members who are engaged in a wildly different way. There is a bit of a theory out there, I don't know if this is the same over in the US, but that, dental assistants, gosh, is it a very exciting job to be in? We're trying to appeal to people coming into the industry because we lost a bunch of them over COVID period. And the Australian Dental Association have put out a video trying to encourage people out there in the wider community, come and be a dental assistant. The issue that I have with that video is every video snippet of a dental assistant's day that they've got in that video series, all they're doing is cleaning. And I'm like, oh my God, the job is so much more than just cleaning. It's wildly entertaining. You learn so much. You get a chance to really show that compassion and care for a patient. You can be part of this organisation and their goals and their team. And I've always found it a completely fulfilling role to play when I was dental assisting. And when we're trying to create an environment that is going to be appealing to these younger generations coming through, I think AI could be a really big part of that. They're going to have a completely different set of skills and strengths, and they're not going to have that hump of going, oh, this is all so new. How am I going to learn it? I think that there are so many benefits to bringing AI into your organization.
Absolutely. I think that's what the schools are seeing right now. They're seeing the students be super excited about utilizing the technology and utilizing really good software as well, apart from their really good handpieces that they get to engage with. But also, I think, it gets at least the dental staff on the same page. The hygienist and the dentist are seeing now the same thing. They can actually, talk about whether it's bone loss or other conditions that they might have, had slight differences, and they can also start to have better conversations around this stuff, and then have more protocols, etc., established in a practice, so that whether it is the protocol on how, when do X-rays need to be taken in a practice, having that more standardized across the practices, there's a lot of value in utilizing it, and as you mentioned, AI is an evolving technology, and not everybody is going to adopt it at this stage, in the same way as not everybody is using ChatGPT, but the people who are going to be at the forefront are going to adopt technologies quicker than people who adopt technology later in that cycle. But I think as there's a lot to gain right now, and there's a lot to influence as well. Like as the technology gets developed, the early users impact how the technology takes shape. For example, when internet came about, and the use cases that got developed at that time, a lot of that shaped where internet is right now, whether it's social media or how it has, the shape of it. So I think there's an opportunity here not only to be a consumer of a technology, but also impact the technology, which is going to impact everyone and the lives of dentists till till they'll practice. So I think it's also that's a great opportunity for them. And, for us, our customers are also our design partners. They help us with not only utilizing these technologies, but also shaping them as well, because nobody knows what exactly, even Julie, you mentioned, this rough idea of what this future could look like, but there's a lot of things to be figured out around, even the treatment plan and what kind of treatment plans will this create. Do you want do you want it optimized on cost, or do you want it have many different options? Do you want to base it on different particular criteria, etc.? So all these choices are going to get made right now that are going to shape the industry, how it's going to look like in the next 10 years, 20 years, etc. So it's actually a pretty exciting opportunity right now.
Gosh, and you talking about that side of things, of the different types of treatment plans that are out there. There are ones that will, we go to patch and repair and just get you by. So it is more cost effective, as opposed to this is the optimal treatment that I would do on my own mother, and I really suggest you to do that. And so then there would, it's getting me very excited, because then you think to yourself, you'll be able to customize it for your own practice and have that. This is the standard of care that you receive here at this particular practice. And the insurance company relevance in America, it's not here to the degree as it is in America by any stretch of the imagination. I hope it never gets there, where the insurance companies tend to be the ones that are driving the treatment plans and what ends up being done on the patients. And I know that I listen to so many podcasts about dental, and a lot of them are American based. And one of the things I do hear about is that there's always if you are a preferred, what we call a preferred provider, if you are affiliated with one or several health insurance companies, and in America there are so many of them, it seems like you need to hire one full-time person just managing the rebates from the dental insurance companies, that you're always going to be running with presuming that you will never claim 100% of what the insurance companies owe you, because the insurance companies will come up with some sort of reason why they aren't paying on this, that, or the other. And with Overjet and the use of it and incorporating insurance companies, does that help get over that kind of hurdle? So you can actually say, yeah, definitely look at this. This was actually needed treatment. This wasn't just my opinion. I'm not trying to rip off the insurance company or claim a larger fee than what was actually done. Here's the evidence. And so it should help them get more of that 100% rebate that they're owed back.
Yeah, no, so I think, Julie, here, one thing I didn't know when I entered the industry, and I had, I was a patient, so had experience insurance, and I had a lot of dentists that we started working on this together with. But what we didn't, I think, realize was that for insurance, or at least in the US, it's actually simple in the sense that they want to pay for medically necessary treatments, and there are other reasons why you might do a treatment. There might be cosmetic reasons, or there might be other reasons there. And then it's about like the right coding, etc., which is another language. As I mentioned, dentists have their language. The insurance language is very different, and the unfortunate thing is that dentists don't get trained on that language. So in school, nobody teaches you, in the US, there are like these CD codes around, for example, for scaling and root planing, it might be D4341. No dentist, is learning all these codes and the 4 or 5 varieties of this code, and when is one code utilized or the other. The office managers get trained on this. However, that is being trained in an unofficial capacity, etc., and there is no standardization across that as well. And then these codes change over time. And then how do you actually train the whole dental staff around this? So a lot of times when we look into these practices, it's less around, a medical necessary treatment not being reimbursed. It's more around, okay, is this the right code for this particular treatment? Is there another code for it? Oh, there's actually another code which, in 2017 got created, and here's the code for it. So there is a lot of that connection that needs to happen. And then, to your point, there are cases, but it's a minority of the cases where the provider and the payer are seeing things a little differently. And here payers hire dentists on their side to be looking at this data as well. And why they do it is because they don't have in the US, you don't have the use of you have your treatment codes, but you don't have codes for like ICD-10 codes around the diagnostic codes. So because of that, because diagnostic codes are not sent, the payers are hiring dentists to look at the data to understand what the disease, if and what the disease looked like, and did it meet the criteria for that insurance company to pay out for the treatment. And that's where the ambiguity comes into play, where one dentist looking at it sees it a certain way, another dentist looks at it and sees it another way. And the question is, are they seeing two different things, or their interpretation of that data is different? And that's where Overjet really helps, because now we can go and measure the things that they're measuring. We can say, okay, there are 4 teeth, and there's X bone loss, or this much of the crown area of the tooth is decayed, and that way two people can see the same information and then come to the same conclusions. Otherwise, one dentist might think that it might be majority of the tooth, and another might say, okay, what is really majority? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? What does that look like? So it removes that ambiguity and comes to having much more objective decisioning.
That makes sense, because some of these podcast episodes I listen to are from consultants, and they say that's the first area they tackle. And by that, I've always assumed they tackle it by just jumping on the insurance company's back and say, pay. But what they're probably doing is better training for the dental staff that are submitting the claims in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. From the education perspective, that's super important. I just recently was listening to another podcast where there is a brilliant surgeon, pardon me, or brilliant dentist who has been establishing a course over in India for implant placement, and that in our universities here, they're not being trained in proper implant placement, which I found astounding. I thought, gosh, it's been around for long enough. Surely that's been brought into the curriculum to become a dentist here. With AI, that's kind of the same sort of thing. I imagine the universities might be late to the party coming on board and teaching students how to actually use it. But you're seeing that is happening over in the US.
Absolutely. So I think it's one of those things where the adoption of software is much easier. It's much faster. Changing process, getting faculty who really understands how to, teach implant planning and placement, etc., is much difficult than, going to a Overjet's website and saying, hey, I want your software. So I think it's one where we are seeing adoption in the schools and having more. And it's also students are asking for it. I think it's one that, especially nowadays, AI is a hot trend. And because of that, when these students are when they're applying to these schools, they're trying to get some experience with the technology. And even when they are in these schools, they want to do research with utilizing this technology as well, because it becomes a very good research tool if you think about it. In the past, if you wanted to do research, you wanted to analyze patients, you were doing it again manually. So if you had to analyze data, you could if you look at these studies, maybe you analyze 100 patients, maybe you even analyze 1,000 patients, but it's not humanly possible to analyze 10,000, 100,000 patients. But now you can, right? If you wanted to do a real study at a population health level, and you wanted to understand, whether the progression of disease, or whether you wanted to look at a particular demographic profile, you can really look at that data, parse it in different ways, query different or particular patients to get the right cohort. So the quality of research it can be done at a very different level, and I think that's another area why the adoption of this in schools is being led by the students, because they want to do research around on this data and start to understand oral disease and oral health at a deeper level than they can find in textbooks.
And that then, lends itself to better community health awareness programs and all the things as well, and recognize and identifying the areas within a country, within a state, within a city of where funds should be going to be able to get better health awareness around people's oral health as well. This is where it just provides I feel like provides so many opportunities. A lot of dental practices might be listening to this kind of AI discussion and think, why would I add another complexity, another thing to learn, another thing that I've got to try to get my team on board with? It's another thing to do. But AI is different. It's the opportunity for saving time and achieving a better outcome for the patient and a better outcome for the business and the team itself is so huge. I'm like, jump on board, come on. Because then being on the journey, if you adopt it now, and we're talking about the diagnostic elements within a dental practice now, implementing that is a relatively straightforward thing in comparison to if you do go to the other end of the spectrum and all of a sudden AI has all these other capabilities and you think, gosh, that's an even bigger elephant to chew, to eat. How am I going to implement that huge thing? When it comes to implementing Overjet the way it is at the moment, where it's going to really assist with your diagnosis, give you that kind of second opinion, if you like, and be able to provide a better way of educating your patients about what they need, what steps does the practice take? What does it mean for the team members? If I was a brand new practice that was coming to you and said, okay, we're going to start adopting it, what does the journey look like for me in implementing it?
Yeah, so I think, with any technology or new software that's being added, especially when you have other softwares in a practice, there is, there is that learning curve there, which I wouldn't say it's frictionless with Overjet, but it's simplified a lot. So the way it looks like is that the dentist or the office manager, etc., signs up on the website. They overjet.com. They get their demo. Somebody from the team actually walks them through what that looks like and make sure that their pain points are aligned with what the software is meant for. And it might be that they're not. They might be looking for something else, or they might not have the pain, and that is okay. This isn't like meant to be forced on every dentist, but most dentists, actually want to get better. They want to improve their practices. They want to do well. They just have, that's why probably they went into school that long as well. Like they wanted to provide the best care to their patients. So there's a lot of reasons why they end up utilizing the technology and getting Overjet. So that's the first step of like, okay, understanding if there's a need, understanding if there's a pain that can be solved through this. The second step is the installation and the onboarding phase, and that phase is this is where our team takes over. We understand what that looks like. We usually connect with the IT team, install the software for the practice, and then schedule a training for them so that the practice staff, including the dentist, the hygienist, other people who want to be part of it, can understand all the bits and pieces. Even if we just gave you the software and said you utilize it, you probably will be able to use it. You'll be like, okay, that says click on this. So it is simple enough, but being able to then, there is a basic training that we do, which is very, very short. It's like 3 clicks that you need to know. But then there's a more advanced training. Like there's a lot of features. It's a feature-rich product in terms of, if you, for example, you mentioned implants. If you actually place implants, there's an implant module. If you focus a lot on third molar extractions, there is that module. There's a module for perio. There's a module for restorative and different types of restorative. So actually, if you wanted to go deeper and really focus on all the capabilities it has, it can take about an hour or so to like learn all the pieces, all the shortcuts, and have the advanced version of it. But usually people take the basic version, in 15-20 minutes they're up and running, and then they can get better and utilize start using the software. So there's the installation and then the training piece of it, and then people are once they get up and running, then we do some check-ins with them to make sure that they understand. That's probably the time that the dentist might ask for the more advanced training. If not, they can find enough value in the basic training as well. And once they start seeing the value, which is usually very quickly, maybe it's in the first day, maybe it's in the second day, that's when they get hooked. The first disease that they were that they had almost missed last time the patient came in, and they're able to see it because there was so much going on for the patient, or they were focused on one side of the mouth and it was the other side of the mouth that they should have looked at. And it's a busy practice, so there's always things that get missed, or and those things get highlighted and identified for the dentist. So it is pretty the discovery of value is very quickly, and then once people have discovered value, then it is about they're just utilizing it every day, and that's when we get usually some really good videos being sent to us, or people reaching out saying this is amazing, this is awesome, etc., and which makes us a lot of happy. But then for us, it's about how do we learn from them, and how do we keep on improving this product.
I was going to say, do you get much feedback about practices that have implemented it and seeing substantial differences in their treatment plan acceptance rates?
Absolutely. So I think for us, we have some of amazing customers who just absolutely love the product. Like they talk about us, with their friends. We have a lot of friends coming onto Overjet as well, and then and as well as we've had patients talk about it, as well as you'll see some Yelp reviews with Overjet being or Google reviews with Overjet being mentioned, or AI being mentioned. So there's this excitement around the product in general. And then there's also critical feedback, we want to improve. As you said, this technology is still very new, and there's our customers give us amazing feedback. They're the ones utilizing it every day, and they would be like, I like this in the beginning, but I'm thinking if you change this to this, that would be very helpful. And we're like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. You're right. And that's something that we utilize effectively to ensure that the product is always improving.
Magnificent. And you were talking about, getting to the value, and for dental practices, purely from a business perspective, one of the areas that is really difficult to achieve great excellence in is just ever increasing up that treatment plan acceptance rate. And when we're taking intraoral photographs of patients' mouths, that makes a big difference because seeing is believing. But printing off the AI layered image of the X-ray for patients as well, again, seeing is believing. And the result, the compounding result of ever increasing your treatment plan acceptance rate is substantial value for a dental practice. And to be on that road, I think AI is a must. It's going to just get better and better in that space as well. Your website's fantastic. It shows people a lot of what the images look like, and I was reviewing it, and I think I looked at it for 3 minutes before we jumped online just to remind myself of the company, because we made this time a few weeks ago. And it explains everything beautifully. It's it's a nice journey for a visitor to move through that website, overjet.com. So well done on that. That's just magnificent. But from the perspective of cost, I don't want to mention cost because they can always change over time. Is it a huge, huge cost, or is it completely manageable for dental practice?
I think it's completely manageable. I think it sometimes pays on the first day. The ROI is actually significant, and it is significant because, again, this data had never been analyzed before in this way. AI had never been utilized. The 10th product in the space will not have that kind of ROI because there's a lot of usually low-hanging fruit, and so it's actually a very good time to get into it because people are getting the advantage of this this amount of value that is getting unlocked, which had never. This data had never been analyzed this way. So I think we've never had cost come up as a major challenge because it's one where I think the software is completely underpriced for what it does.
Yeah, and that's it. I think, and it's in the use of it, the effective use of it, that the value just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So therefore, the cost keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it is a wonderful
Absolutely.
piece of technology. I mean, everything else with dental has huge cost to it. It usually involves a big piece of equipment as well. This is so much more simple to implement into your practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm like, just compare the cost of this with a CBCT. No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
right. That's right. This is
Or an
these are the
extra
figures I'm
sensor.
not going in my mind. This is easy. This is an easy decision. Anything else that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
No, I think, as you mentioned, there are there's actual value that dentists can get right now, and then there's always, as people get more and more proficient in it, the same way, you were mentioning that you like ChatGPT. The first time you use it, you found some value. The more you use it, there are more use cases that you determine. There's more value that you start to unlock. You get better and better at it because these tools are very powerful, and they're limited. There's off the shelf stuff that you can do, but then as you start like really diving deeper into this stuff, you start realizing that there's even more value there. So I think that's probably even a good learning for me here, which is it's not only that the technology is improving, but the people utilizing the technology, they're also, it's a new use case and it's a new technology. They're also getting better at it.
Yeah, and who knows? There could be a growing demand for it from the patients as well. That people love being up to date with the technology, using the latest of everything. Just look at Tesla and the electric vehicles and stuff. People were just jumping on board, and now there's a huge demand for it as well. And so there might be, depending on where your practice is located and where it's situated within the marketplace, if you are a modern practice, there might be a demand by your patients. Like, why is my friend getting these images and I'm not getting these images? And so it's a good idea
Absolutely.
from that perspective as well, just to kind of get on the bus and get on the train.
And what we see is one of the groups that, or the groups that are utilizing Overjet, you'll see it if you search for Overjet, you'll see it even in the job descriptions. So when they're hiring more staff, especially hygienists, they're utilizing this as a way, because it shows to them that they're actually investing in the staff and the patients, because it makes their life easier as well as the patient care better. So that's been a recruiting tool as well.
Fantastic. And I should have really mentioned at the very start, because I'm coming from my level of awareness around it. But coming back to the raw basics of what it actually helps to diagnose, it's caries, pockets, bone height.
Yeah, so many things. You have periapical radiolucencies, there's calculus, there's carious lesions, all signs of carious lesions, depending on if they're incipient or if they've secondary caries, or they've primary caries, but they've gone into the dentin as well, and able to differentiate between all of these. So, and which ends up having different treatments. Something might be preventive if it's still an incipient carious lesion. So it might say, hey, there's preventive treatment needed or it might be significantly larger and needing more invasive treatments. Then in terms of, as you mentioned, the bone levels, which connected with pocket depths can give you more around periodontal disease. The third molars, if they're impacted or not, and what needs to happen there. Incipient or just spaces where you can actually you don't have a tooth, and it might be a place for, say, an implant. If there is there enough space there for an implant, and there's a lot more as well. So it's one where, as I mentioned, like your basic. Somebody would probably use it for basic restorative and, say, periodontal. As you get, there might be, as you get more advanced, you might be using it for operationalizing other areas as well, and being able to get more use of the product. When we had introduced periapical radiolucencies for endos, that became a huge hit, because there was a lot of areas that were being missed. Then we introduced Overjet for kids. And that became, a huge hit where we're not only just, again, looking at the x-rays, but we're also looking at preventive care as well, whether it's fluoride for patients where they might have incipient caries lesions, or, looking at protocols for sealants for kids. We're able to highlight that as well. So there's a lot to be done. And a lot that it already offers.
Yeah, already offers, and it just shows that Scopes is going to continue growing as well, what Overjet is able to do. One of the best first steps, I imagine, is to get people to jump onto your website and do a demo and organize a demo.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so you just go to overjet.com. There's obvious buttons there on the upper right-hand side there that say book a demo, and then that is a very good place to start. And you can just get your whole team involved in the demo and start talking about the kind of impact that this can have. And I feel like it will have the kind of impact that may not always be immediately obvious in all its elements. There'll be the obvious elements that you were speaking about with diagnosis, but then the trend that happens within your practice of becoming more productive, more efficient, etc. I think that's something that you discover over a period of time, and all of those testimonials and feedback that you get from your clients attest to that as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, and do go out there and book that demo. And if people wanted to contact you directly, do they just do it, or not directly, but through your company directly? All the contact details are on the website for any questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you very much. What time is it over there in California at the moment?
It's 3:48 p.m.
PM. That's good. I'm pleased you didn't say AM. That's very good. That timing works very well. We started at 8:00 our time, so it worked out very nicely with this time zone difference. You have a beautiful day, Wardah, and thank you so much for your contribution to our program.
No, thank you so much, Julie. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, then I encourage you to head over to Amina and my website, dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. You will find all the information that you need if you would like to gain our assistance in helping you and your team achieve great success. If you would like to find out more, you can also email us directly at info@dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. Thanks so much for listening.